I'm D-Rock with Zelda Theory, and I'd like to talk about those massive, majestic, colossal, beautiful birds called Loftwings, and my theory on why Nintendo needs to bring these creatures back in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Let's do it. Loftwings were introduced in the origin story of the entire series, The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. These massive birds were such an amazing introduction to the franchise because up until this point, you never really traveled throughout the different hyrules in this way. You know, flying around the sky on a massive bird. For those that don't know, Link most of the time gets around on his noble steed, Epona. There are some exceptions here, right? I mean, you have Wind Waker, you use the boat. In Phantom Hourglass, you use a boat. In Spirit Tracks, you use a train. So I'm sure there's more, but you get the point. Now you're probably thinking, D-Rock, my man, who cares? Get to the point. Well, hold on now. I'd like to take a minute and explain what exactly these birds are. That way I can build on my overarching theory, as well as explain the origin for the new people of the series. I'll have you know that this game is about to release in full HD in less than a month, but I digress. Let's get into it. Long story short, fam, the Loftwings are the ancient birds in Skyward Sword that allow the people of Skyloft to get around the sky and to visit different regions if they so choose. I mean, you can't really use a horse or a car or a boat to get around in the sky, right? Anyway, in Skyward Sword, it is part of the culture in Skyloft for each individual person to have their own Loftwing, which is a symbol of the divine protection granted by the goddess Hylia. These birds are literally pointed out throughout the game to be a direct gift from the goddess, which is why they are so, quote, sacred to the citizens. A Loftwing and its rider have a special connection, as Skyloftians consider themselves to be only half of a pair until they are made whole by the Loftwings. When a Skyloftian is young, they meet their bird companion under the statue of the goddess. There's a couple scenes in Skyward Sword where you witness this. Having a Loftwing and being able to ride it separates the kids from the adults. Little bit of a side tangent, I don't know why, but this just reminds me of that movie with the big blue people, you know, I think it's called Avatar. You know what I mean. The big blue people have to go up to this floating island in order to tame this pterodactyl looking thing. And this is really the only way they are considered, quote, adults. It's very similar. I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was pretty cool. Now here's something pretty interesting that you might not have known. The crest of the goddess Hylia is a symbol of a Loftwing, which bears resemblance to many other symbols in the Legend of Zelda series. The Hylian Crest, found on every version of the Hylian Shield, is a symbol of Link's Crimson Loftwing. The crest of the royal family also depicts the image of a Loftwing in its design. It's so cool, right? Okay, D-Rock, now what does this have to do with Breath of the Wild 2? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you happened to watch the most recent teaser trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, which was sort of in my opinion, it looks like we will be spending a lot of time in the sky, right? The floating islands. I mean, what better way to get around than to call upon your trusty, rare, red crimson Loftwing and fly around this massive sky that has endless exploration opportunities? I think bringing Loftwings back would add such an amazing feature to the sequel. It would also fix the many complaints that Skyward Sword had way back in the day, where you were very limited as far as where or what you could potentially explore in the sky, which I actually agree with. It was very limited as far as sky exploration in Skyward Sword. Breath of the Wild 2 could easily make this better. I just hope if it happens, again, this is a theory, they don't lock it behind the amiibo. Oh, please, Nintendo, don't do this. I beg you. Speaking of bringing up events or certain things from the past, I made a Patreon account. And if you'd like access to an exclusive monthly Zelda podcast, voting rights on topics to the podcast, having your name verbally announced at any point in my video if you so choose, as well as access to Patreon specific posts, check it out if you find any value in the content I create. Because if I'm being real, YouTube ads are not that reliable, right? But you, my friend, are. If you feel led, there will be a link in the description box below. Speaking of shoutouts, A huge thank you to my friends Jessica, Jeremy, The Rebellion, Boston Boot Girl, Gabe, and user SMK for your support over on Patreon. Your support over there means the absolute world. Thank you so much. Bringing Loftwings back in the sequel would definitely make exploration a heck of a lot easier as well. Now imagine this. You're exploring the newly handcrafted land of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild 2, and you notice this massive piece of landmass in the sky. You pull out a flute or something like that, which allows you to summon your Crimson Loftwing from the ancient past. Man, oh man, what a beautiful thing that would be, right? It would be so cool. Nintendo bringing back these majestic creatures would allow you and I to explore the lands of Hyrule in a much easier way. Imagine this scenario as well. You're flying around extremely high in the sky, and you're able to scope things out much like you were in Breath of the Wild, and see things that you can collect, or maybe a certain temple. Sorry, I got a little excited there, that you haven't been to yet. And then you set your sights on that specific thing or a place, and you take your first skydive. It would be amazing. Again, if Nintendo does not lock this behind the amiibo that's launching alongside Skyward Sword HD, which there has been a lot of theories on that. I'm definitely on the side of that not happening. I think this would most definitely give us, the diehard Zelda fans, a reason to explore and to potentially 100% this game, if you are a completionist like me. I mean, think about it. How much easier would it have been to have these birds along for the ride in Breath of the Wild? I'm just saying. They could even ditch the paraglider idea here. I mean, in my opinion, the paraglider was so lame. So there's that. Maybe not ditch it entirely, but just have Link mainly use it like he did in Skyward Sword, where it literally saves him from splattering all over the floor when he's about to end his dive, turning this game into a rated M game for reasons which would be pretty obvious from the height of the dive. Now Nintendo would then have to put somewhat of a limitation on that, right? Are you with me? Well, I've got a theory for that as well. They could put a stamina wheel on the Loftwing instead of on Link himself. Instead of giving us a lame speed boost like in Skyward Sword that you can only use 3 times, which honestly was completely pointless to me playing Skyward Sword because of the speed boost rings you could potentially fly through. But anyway, they could limit the duration of how long you could actually fly on the Loftwing at one given time. Nintendo could make this stamina wheel upgradable as well, so that as you progress throughout the game, which I can't imagine is going to be a very long playthrough, you can upgrade the stamina wheel, which would then allow you to travel even greater distances. Come on, Nintendo, hear my plea. D-Rock, the birds are extinct. Well, are they? What if in this new adventure we are able to travel through time to the age of all things where the Loftwings weren't extinct? Maybe towards the time frame of Skyward Sword? Heck, even beyond that. What if the theories of all these amazing Zelda fans about time travel being a thing again are true? How exciting, right? I mean, let's just be honest. All the Zelda games that actually deal with time travel were gems, man. Breath of the Wild 2 could just be another stone. You feel me? The theories of Link going back in time, and if you haven't seen them, please be sure to check out my homies Hyrule Gamer, Masked Nintendo Bandit, as well as Zeltic. They all have amazing theories on this. Judging from the trailer that we witnessed, it does look like this Link, if it even is Link, is a Link from a long time ago. The hair, the clothes, the Roman-like shoes he's wearing, I mean, it all fits. A lot of the theories suggest that this Link that we see in the trailer doing the whole Superman thing is the ancient hero that defeated Ganon many, many years ago. Why would it then not be okay to theorize that this ancient hero possibly used Loftwings in the past? I don't know, I think it could be a thing. As far as how the Loftwings could be used in the future, like the current Link in Breath of the Wild or Breath of the Wild 2, maybe this flute that I mentioned in this video could be used to summon these colossal birds from the time of the distant past when the birds did exist. I mean, isn't this what the ocarina was for in Ocarina of Time? Wasn't the ocarina key in Link being able to travel through time? Think about it. I think I've made my point pretty clear, at least I hope so. Nintendo reintroducing these magnificent creatures would make the sequel to Breath of the Wild that much more amazing whenever it does actually release. Bringing back Loftwings would allow for way better exploration it could improve on the game mechanics that Skyward Sword didn't do so well, and it would certainly line up with all of these amazing theories that I have had the honor of listening to. What are your thoughts? Would you like to see the Loftwings return? If so, how? I would love to hear your opinion down in the comments below. Please do not be afraid to voice your opinion here. You all know I have no issues with voicing mine, so if you found value in this video today, do me a solid and consider subscribing to the channel and turning on all notifications for weekly Zelda conversations. I appreciate you and your time so much. Continue to be the light, and remember, it's dangerous. Well, you know the rest. Much peace and love, my friend. Be sure to click on one of these 2 videos here to consume more Zelda content. I'll talk to you over there.